The Niners aren't exactly at the Chiefs and the Eagles level right now. They got to get back to winning their own division. So the Rams won their division this year. Didn't make it out of the division round of the playoffs, but they're a good team. And they're going to be aggressive this offseason. They usually are. Came out last night that they're planning to trade, if they can, Cooper Kupp. And if they can't, I assume they'll release him. That's a pretty aggressive move. He was the offensive player of the year 3 years ago. They gave him a huge contract. And he said he thought he was going to finish his career with the Rams. The Rams said, thank you for your service. The Niners don't exactly seem to work that way.
Well, let's say Cooper Kupp was at one point, I would say, a great player, Iggy.
Yes.
Okay, but in the playoffs this year, and actually later in the season, in games that really mattered, they were going to Nakua and other people all the time. Kupp, I think there were games where he didn't catch a pass.
Yeah, and couldn't get open at all.
Couldn't get open. Yeah. So there was no sentimentality involved because football is not a sentimental sport. It's a ruthless business. Mm-hmm. I'm ruthless is not necessarily good, but it's necessary in football, in the NFL. And so they're saying, thank you, but you don't serve our purposes anymore. We're going to get rid of you.
Yeah, we'll throw you a parade one day and we'll honor you and maybe we'll retire your number, but you got to go now.
Okay, so two things about that. One, I've been reading people saying, should the Niners sign Cooper Kupp? Hell no. Hell no. To get someone else's leavings, to get someone who can't make it on, can't really cut it, especially on a division rival. No. Plus, what the Niners have done traditionally is, and we've said it a million times, get rid of players who are no longer serviceable and not wait till that moment. Get rid of them a season before.
And you know who was part of the front office that created that mantra? John McVay.
John McVay. He worked with Bill on that. So we're going to say it again. The Rams are going to get rid of Kupp. The Niners should be doing the same thing with Deebo Samuel, and they should have done it 1 season ago or even 2 seasons ago. Yeah. So it shows a complete difference between those two organizations, with the Rams coming out on top.
Absolutely. I mean, Deebo isn't any better than Cooper Kupp at this point. Both teams would be better off without those guys. You got to move on. And you admire how the Rams make a difficult decision, hurt a guy's feelings, and they're ultimately loyal to their organization and not to certain stars. Are the Niners?
I want to tell you an interesting story. The year I was writing a book on Bill Walsh, I spent a lot of time at the Stanford football offices. I was in his office, we were talking, and then he got a call, and I'm not going to name the player, that a certain player was in the building and was very angry at Bill because he had gotten rid of him. And he wanted to talk to Bill. Bill left our meeting in his office. He says, Lowell, so-and-so is in another room here. He's very angry at me because I got rid of him. And I need to go talk to him. And he was gone a long time. I was sitting there. He came back after a while and he seemed emotional. He said, I just had a very tough meeting with so-and-so. And I explained why I got rid of him and that it wasn't personal, that I really like him and I still like him, but it was a decision I had to make. And he said, I don't know if I appeased him, but I did the best I could. And that really happened. And this was after this player was out of football for a few years.
Right, because probably the player thought, man, you backstabbed me, you threw me away, you can't look me in the eye. No, I can look you in the eye. It's not personal. I didn't do this to be cruel. I'm being loyal to the team, and I have to make these tough decisions. This is part of it. You're not going to be the last player that has this experience. Sorry.
Yeah. So I did witness that.
Yeah, and the Niners have been able to take a hard stance with players such as Devondre Campbell, but it'd be nice to see if they could actually do something that's not sentimental. And
Iggy, they took a hard stance with Campbell after he screwed up.
Correct.
They did not initiate it.
That's true.
they need to initiate it with Debo Samuel and with
Yeah.
that juice guy. That juice
Yeah.
guy is useless. I'm telling you, when they have two guys on the field, those two guys on the field, it's a 9-man offense against an 11-man defense.
Why do you think the Rams are so much more strong than the Niners in this aspect?
Well, Iggy, again, I don't know who their general manager is, and I don't know who has the power there.
Les
My
Snead has been there. I think he was there before Sean McVay got there. He's a good, I mean, he has some power.
Okay, then let's say Snead, in conjunction with the coach, are much tougher,
Yep.
tougher in a business sense than Shanahan and Lynch. And again, what I've said about Lynch, I don't know him anymore. I knew him as a college student, and he was a delightful guy. I'm sure he still is. He was a Hall of Fame strong safety, hit you really hard. I do not feel he's a strong personality to run a team. I've seen so many, and I have known so many football players. I've seen a proportion of them that are really tough and mean on the field and really can be manipulated off the field. My guess with Lynch, he is not a strong personality off the field. I can't prove it. I don't know him anymore. But the way he participates in the running of that team, I do not find impressive.
Rod Simmons says, Lowell Cohn, what does Bill Walsh say for paying Purdy $40 million plus next season? What would he say about Bosa's decline since new contract?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Let's start with Bosa. I think Bill would seriously consider getting rid of Bosa. He could get a lot. He could get draft picks for Bosa, and he could build up his team. I'm speaking for a man who's no longer with us. Bill maybe he was smarter than me about football, so I'm taking a guess. As far as paying Purdy $40 million, I'm not sure he ever would have wanted Purdy.
Mm.
As far as the money goes, it doesn't matter to me about the money as long as it doesn't hurt the team. If Bill felt $40 million would hurt the team, he wouldn't do it. But I'm not sure he would have wanted him in the first place because he has certain limitations. I mean, I know Joe Montana didn't have a really strong arm, but I think he had a better arm than this kid. And Joe Montana could have been the greatest quarterback who ever lived. There are others. I don't think Purdy ever will be.
Also, he had Montana. And like 2 years after Montana won his second Super Bowl, he traded for Steve Young.
Yeah.
Because Steve Young obviously was more gifted than
Better athlete.
Joe Montana. Yeah. Bigger,
better at. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's how ambitious Bill Walsh was. I want the best quarterback in the league, even though I already have him.
And in addition, Iggy, he knew it would upset Montana to have this guy. And he knew it would upset Steve because he couldn't play right away. He couldn't have cared less.
Yes.
He didn't care.
Yeah.
He
It's
never
the best for both of you and the best for us.
Yeah. It's not like he sat home at night and said, oh, God, I'm hurting Joe's feelings. He could not have cared less.
Yeah. I respect that. Rod Simmons says, Grant, what would you want Lowell to ask Kyle? Dad, what would you want to ask Kyle?
Oh, boy. Let's stay with this for a moment because it's a great question. And I mean, what would I want to ask him? I'd want to ask him, Coach, why do you still have Debo and why do you still have Juszczyk? That'd be a question I'd ask him.
Yeah.
Well, we think it's for the best, like that sort of thing. I would have said, I'm curious, what did Mahomes not have that you wanted?
Yeah.
I'd like to know that. Yeah. I'd like to know, why do you not think it's important to have a really strong offensive line to protect your quarterback who's mobile but not really a runner? Why do you scrimp on that? How about those questions?
I like those questions.
And I'd like to ask him, when the kid got shot, why didn't you go to the hospital? I would have gone. Bill Walsh would have gone. Why didn't you go to the hospital? Because it would have helped your team. It would have told everybody, if I got shot, he's there for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ricky Pearsall already has said that he cried when John Lynch showed up because it meant so much.
Of course.
And that he'll always love Debo because Debo is the only player who showed up.
I have to say, I'm down on Debo a lot, and sometimes for his behavior. The idea that he went I find it so touching.
Yeah.
And I find, you know what it means to me, Iggy? You can't pigeonhole anybody you know in life. People are so different from what you think. You think Debo is sort of a diva and he's a narcissist, and then he does this.
Right.
People are so unexpected. That's the
Right.
word I want, unexpected. And what Debo did, it makes me love him.
Right. Me too. I think it's important to remember with professional athletes, they're in their 20s, they're young, and they're probably like young for their age, considering they've had
Yeah.
everything go their way. So for like 10 to 15 years, but that doesn't mean they don't have character. And I think Debo showed it.
Absolutely. And for that, God love you, Debo.
Joseph for real says, have you men heard the discussion between Stephen A and Cam Newton, where Cam claims he wouldn't trade his MVP for a Super Bowl ring? He makes a decent point, but in my opinion, a true MVP had the fumble recovery in that Super Bowl. I'm not surprised you would say that.
Iggy and I covered that Super Bowl. And Iggy, as I recall, after the game, he ran out of an interview, didn't he, Iggy?
Yeah, it was incredible. Well, again, if people don't remember, he had been like coronated as the best player in the league before that game. He fumbles in the Super Bowl. The ball's right at his feet, and he doesn't jump on it. And it was incredible. He just, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what went through his head, but he didn't jump on the ball. The Broncos recovered. They won. After the game, they do those like post-game interviews. It's in this big room, and there's a big, I don't want to, like what separated the Panthers from the Broncos? A little partition, like a
yeah. And you could hear.
I mean, yeah, not even a wall, just some cloth, a cloth.
Yeah.
So Cam's talking, and he's kind of mumbling into the microphone because he lost and he's devastated. Right next to him is someone from Chris Harris Jr., I want to say, from the Broncos, screaming into the microphone. Oh, we just knew all we had to do was make Cam Newton play quarterback and he would lose. He's not a quarterback. All we had to do was make him play quarterback. And he's just sitting there like listening to Chris Harris Jr. say this stuff, gets quiet, walks out. It's like, man. And he was never the same.
Yeah, never. That was it.
Never the same. So I'm not, he can always say that he was the MVP that year, but yeah, he was a 1 year wonder. David Kendall Jr. says Niners front office hasn't been good since Eddie left or got pushed out. If Eddie was still in charge, this wouldn't be happening. He was a leader.
I would have to agree with that.
Burn Dog 79 says, do the Chiefs have enough firepower to get it done without the officials' help? And the bonus question, how many holds will the Chiefs be called for in the game? I'm going with 0.
Okay, we're going to talk about all that later, but as I would say, the argument that the Chiefs get help from the officials, I don't entertain it. I think it's a spurious argument.
Joshua Wyatt says Philly takes their whooping seriously. They got whooped by the Niners and changed everything. Same with the Chiefs when they lost to Tampa Bay. Niners got whooped by multiple teams and laughed it off.
They almost acted like they won.
Yes. They almost did.
and right, they almost won.
Didn't you hear? Boxing Fan Times 4 says, stop hating Kyle as a genius. Who else would be smart enough to sign 2 third-string quarterbacks over drafting Mahomes? Red and Gold Till I'm Dead and Cold podcast says Jameis as QB2. If no, why not?
Why not? I mean, it's okay, but there are others.